Good afternoon from Singapore, and a very warm welcome to you wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. We will get started in a few minutes once most of today's attendees have managed to join us for this webinar, so please bear with us until then. In the meantime, I'd like to share with you two videos depicting a day in the life of boarding at East and at Dover. I hope you enjoy them. So hello again. I think we're just about ready to start our boarding virtual open day. My name is Katie Phantom, and I am the Deputy Director of Admissions at the college. And I'll take a few minutes today just to introduce the program and to go through a few guidelines for today's event. As you know, this year we are offering you the chance to connect with us both virtually and in person. So in addition to today's webinar, we also have the last of our on-campus open days this Thursday, the 5th of October, focusing on the high school at East Campus, and on Friday, the 6th of October, for the high school on the Dover campus. So if you have signed up for any of those on-campus events, we very much look forward to welcoming you to the campus. The first hour of this event will be devoted to the presentation about our boarding community on both our campuses, led by our Directors of Residential Life at East and at Dover. And we will hear from some of our boarding students, house parent, and also a parent of one of our boarders from the Dover campus. The presentation will be followed by about a 20-minute question and answer session related to the boarding experience at Uwcsea. And you're also most welcome to ask admissions-related questions, although we urge you to focus on questions related to the boarding and the student experience. Do note that this session does not include a formal presentation about the admissions process. We hope you were able to attend the Admissions Explained webinar event on the 7th of September, a recording of which was included in the webinar confirmation email that we sent you. In case you're not able to attend or watch the recording, we encourage you to do so after today's event. So as you listen to today's presentation, please feel free to submit questions via the questions and answer button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Some of my colleagues are working hard behind the scenes, and they will be able to respond to your questions in writing with useful links and information on our website. So do look out for those responses. And please note this webinar is recorded, So you will be able to find this webinar on our website after this event. We will also send you a link to this webinar to all those who registered for today's event. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you both of our Directors of Residential Life at East and at Dover. And I'd like to hand over first to Marcel Campbell. Over to you, Marcel.
Thanks so much, Katie, and good morning, good afternoon, and evening, wherever you are in the world at this time. My name is Marcel Campbell. I'm the Director of Residential Life here at Uwcsea East. My colleague, Nick, and I will be facilitating this webinar today, and we hope it will provide you with the information you need to make a good choice for your family as you embark on the adventure of joining a boarding community. First, a brief introduction about my team and I before I hand over to my colleague, Nick. I've lived here in the boarding house at East for the past 10 years. In fact, I've lived in boarding houses now for longer than I've lived in my own house in my adult life. In fact, I've spent 2 decades living and working in boarding communities. And I'm joined by my husband, James, and our 3 children who've spent all of their lives in this boarding community too. Next slide. In Tampines House on East Campus, we have a total team of 38 pastoral staff who work alongside our operational teams to take care of the boarders. We have 5 resident house parents who live in the building 24 hours a day, who partner with 4 day staff to take on the primary pastoral care role of the boarders. Each boarder is part of one of 4 house families led by a team consisting of at least 1 resident member and 1 of our day team members. Our grade 11 and 12 students are divided into 3 house families, while our grade 8, 9, and 10 boarders live together in a 4th boarding house family. If you move on to the next slide, Katie, they'll be able to see the rest of our resident and day team who take care of the boarders. And now I'll hand over to Nick to introduce himself and also talk a little bit about the structure of Dover boarding.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Allison. And the 2 sites are similar in many ways, but I'll explain a little bit the differences between the 2. My main role here is to work opposite Marcel, looking after the Dover campus and the operation here. We are over 3 houses, so there are 3 boarding houses over here in Dover, each with its own team in a similar sort of structure to East. And I'll introduce those guys in a moment. My background is originally in outdoor pursuits and educational school tours in France and Italy and the UK, but then moved into schools and worked as a deputy head and a teacher and as a social worker for a period. So my interest has always been working with young people. And I think what is very special about the boarding house here is that it's a place where the kids feel reassured, their well-being is looked after, and there are lots of new experiences for them to enjoy. My wife Vina is currently back in the UK. She has settled my son to university for his start in that, and my daughter's just finishing her A-levels in preparation, so hopefully we will be reunited quite soon. Next slide, please. There's myself and a team of both house parents, assistant house parents, and what we call day parents. Day parents manage the administration of the house and are your daytime contact, and house parents work in the evenings and weekends so that there's 24-hour cover. There's myself, Helen Leeming, who supports in the deputy role, Callie, who leads the day team, Nikki and Jamie, who look after Nelson Mandela House. Next slide. Caro and Andy, with the help of Carmen, run Kurt Hahn House. And Tony, Colette, with the help of Indira, run Maya Angelou House. All houses are very similar in structure and size, 4-bedded rooms with ensuite, and we all interact. So it's one community, but 3 houses. Back over to you, Marcel.
Thanks, Nick. Boarding is truly a passion of mine because nowhere else, I believe, can young people learn the skills and the qualities that they do in any other environment. It really is something very, very special. And in fact, residential life is at the heart of every UWC community in all 18 colleges around the world, and is the essence of Kurt Hahn's vision. Bringing together young people from all backgrounds and walks of life results in an utterly transformational experience. And that's what we offer here in boarding at UWC, extending all the 5 learning areas that you would have heard about in our high school and middle school webinars. Challenge, transformation, preparation for life, not just university, and significant learning outside of the classroom. It isn't simply an option for families who want to send their children to the school here, but they can't live in Singapore. It actually has to be an active choice and an active buying in to the community's principles and the mission of UWC. Next slide, please, Katie. Our boarding philosophy is very much centered around the Uwcsea mission. It's not centered around providing an environment where academics is the sole focus and the driving force to what we do. To the contrary, we value students who engage meaningfully in areas outside of the classroom, and in particular, engage meaningfully in the boarding community, because in that way, our boarding community members develop the skills and qualities that will enable them to be successful in all areas of their life, and most importantly, develop a motivation for engaging in the world around them to the benefit of others. We might challenge some students and families' perspectives on how much time, energy, and consideration should be invested in academic studies and the grades that we expect. We place far more weight on participation and leadership shown in areas outside of the classroom than on a student's final IB score. And we ask prospective families to take this into consideration when applying and buy wholeheartedly into our ethos as part of our community so that their child gets the most out of this experience while they're with us. And a key characteristic of our community, and one that has an impact on our admissions, is our deliberate creation of a diverse community where we have students of a variety of backgrounds, cultures, passions, talents, interests, personality types, and ways of thinking. And as you can imagine, if you bring lots of different people together from such different cultures and walks of life, this can present some challenges to people living together in quite a dynamic environment. And it's the resolution of those challenges on a daily basis where the learning and the magic of boarding happens. And to guide all our community members in navigating these challenges and developing lifelong habits that contribute towards us achieving the UWC mission, we have the 9 principles of the Boarding Manifesto that you can see on your screen. You can see we have an emphasis on caring for other people, caring for the environment, and acting in the interest of others and not ourselves. I'm going to hand back to Nick, who along with some of the boarding students will share a little bit about what this community looks and feels like.
Hi again. I think the first thing that you notice and strikes me several times a week is the openness of the boarding community. Willingness to chat, to volunteer, and on occasion to challenge us. Visitors are always welcomed. Whether they are new students or indeed staff, parents, and there's always an interest, and questions asked, and a real lack of awkwardness, which often happens when you first join a sort of boarding community. People are very, very interested here in learning more about other people. In total, our boarding community across both campuses comprises around 350 students, so we are a small proportion of the overall school. Approximately a third of these are scholarship students who are selected through the national committees in their home countries. Somewhere around about 50 plus countries at the moment are spread across our 2 boarding houses. It's a needs-bound, merit-based process, both providing them with the opportunity for an international education that many would not be able to normally access, and helping us enjoy a more diverse student body from the range of backgrounds and life experience that Kurt Hahn envisaged when he first started the UWC movement. Our community has children from every continent, from 60 plus different countries, and in Dover, out of 180, we have 54 different nationalities, and more in East. Very differing social economic backgrounds, experiences, levels of maturity. But on a day-to-day basis, I think the difference of background where the young people come from is barely noticeable. there is a really high level of sort of integration. We have a rule that boarders do not share a room with a roommate of the same nationality. They are in the same grade group, but not necessarily from the same country. This ensures that they are exposed to, new cultures, backgrounds, and languages on a daily basis. The two campus boarding houses are different in design, but the fundamentals of developing those positive relationships, individualized care, security, building trust, combined with a sense of humor, can be found on both sites. We visit each other's campus. They're a ways away, but each time you visit, you can feel that the same ethos, being relaxed and welcoming and open, exists in both. The house parents, day parents, assistant house parents, counsellors, nurses and aunties that make up the team reflect the diversity of the community. Currently got 14 different nationalities in our own staff team over here at Dover. With the school the size it is, the facilities are excellent, and this gives the opportunity for many structured clubs, spontaneous sports and activities. We have multiple large and small common rooms, games rooms, kitchens and study areas. We're very, very well resourced. The level of trust given to us by you as parents and also from the kids towards us is very noticeable. This allows us to work in a relaxed manner with young people, and it being Singapore, which of course helps, there is a higher level of freedom than perhaps they would be able to enjoy in some home countries. So this is all very, makes life very easy when it comes to having a relaxed boarding house. This is really important, and this level of trust between staff and parents and young people is what makes a community feel like a safe and comfortable place to spend time. And to reiterate really what Marcel was speaking about, there are very many good schools with excellent exam results and great reputations both in Singapore and around the world. Our expectation is that as parents you will choose us at Uwcsea because our boarding experience offers something different, a holistic approach, a widening of experience and exposure to new people, ideas and knowledge. There are plenty of grade A students looking for places in great universities. What else is your child going to offer when that time comes? I would like to introduce you to two of the Dover boarders that I live and work with, who have volunteered to share their experience of the transition through boarding, the orientation program, and the first few weeks of boarding life as they recall. Hello, Vidi. Hello, Meng Hong.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Vidhi. I'm from India, and I'm a grade 11 boarder here at UWC Dover. I joined in 2020 when I was grade 8.
Hi, guys. My name is Manghong Moen. I'm currently in grade 10 right now, doing IGCSE in UC Dover, and I joined in grade 8.
Okay, one of the things that we often get asked on tours is, can you recall your arrival at the Dover boarding house and in Singapore? Do you remember what your first impressions of boarding were?
Yes, so I'm gonna start. If I recall, I arrived in 2020, which was peak of COVID year. My experience was a little bit different to other years. However, a general first impression I had was quite, to be honest, very overwhelming sometimes. Having to do quarantine at the start due to COVID restrictions was stressful, but we had quite a huge support from the house parent team, the assistant house parent team, and the day parent team. It is very normal to get overwhelmed with everything when you first arrive into the boarding house, but because it's the first time for many boarders who are coming in alone, traveling alone, living in a new place, there's a lot of new things happening, but the biggest support for me was, as I mentioned, the boarding staff, the house parents, and even like the returning boarders who have been living here for quite a few years. They basically taught me how to do some things, how the boarding house works, and that was a huge support for me. And when I first came, there were so many people like this, and interacting with them and making connections was really worthwhile for me. Yeah.
For me, I arrived in the boarding house in 2021, which was halfway through COVID. I remember landing in Singapore in the first time. I was 13 years old back then. I was very young. It's my first time going out of the country alone without my family. I was really scared and excited at the same time. I was so nervous because there were police everywhere, and there were like um people wearing those COVID what's it called stuff, yeah. And I was really scared. But the boarding house kept me nice, comfortable. They were very accepting and welcoming. They always make sure to check up on me twice a day sometimes, or every 1 to 2 days. Do I need food or do I need something from them? Yeah. And while joining the boarding house the first time, uh, I didn't know everybody there, but the house friend made sure that I I get to talk to people and I introduce myself. And this community is a very welcoming community. People just so nice. They they like they had a sense of excitement, belonging. It was majorly due to the inclusion of the boarding staff and our boys too. And yeah.
Meng Hong, I remember your arrival, and of course you were grade 8. You were one of our youngest boarders.
Yeah.
Can you recall the transition when you moved out of middle school in grade 8 and moved up to the bigger part of the school, the high school? What was that like?
Well, when I was in grade 8, I experienced a lot of homesickness. I missed my family a lot. Well, in the end, I had the house friend behind me and my roommates too. They were very supportive. I remember crying so much, missing my family, but I can talk to, I have a house friend for me. I talk to them and they made me feel home. Like growing house is my second home. And I would always think that they're my parents too, they're my second parents. So that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, because I arrived in grade 8 as well, moving up to grade 9 is a huge change, not just in terms of boarding life, but also in terms of school, because you do a whole new curriculum when you go into grade 9 and you move into high school. But I think the most important thing for me was to talk with other people who have experienced that. So people who've been through that transition, and it really helps talking to other people. And there's a huge number of people you can talk to, boarders, house parents, and it makes you feel like you belong, and there's a sense of belonging in this community, and it made me feel like home.
And it's quite extraordinary how quickly the time whizzes by. And Vidhi, you've moved from grade 10 into grade 11 and started your IB experience. Things have speeded up a bit, I understand.
Yeah, it has significantly up as you move along the years. But I feel like grade 11 is a huge change, workload changes. But in terms of boarding life, you have a lot of time, but managing time really needs to be important. And there are many activities which are offered. There are cultural events, there are different sports events. There's so many things that go around. And I think just right now, what's important for me is managing my time, making connections, and being here so many years now, it just feels like a home away from home. So
Sounds good. Can I just drop back to, because you've both in some form helped other newer boarders coming in over the last couple of years, through the orientation process. I mean, COVID was a difficult one, but how have you been able to make people who followed you through the boarding house feel at home and safe?
okay, so I'll start with that. So orientation week is something we have at the start of every academic year, and I feel like it's really special and important because it's like the aspect which helps new boarders come in and integrate into the boarding community. And we have different activities planned throughout the week. We were both part of the orientation team this year, and we interact with new boarders, help them settle in and make connections. For me personally, orientation week was something which really helped me getting to know how this place works, what I need to do, or like how to, like something like simple as curfews or leave requests or activities. I depend on the boarders who've been here a lot, and it really helps you settle in. And the activities which we plan throughout the week are really helping you making connections, and just it helps you not feel that homesick as you come into the first week and say goodbye to your family and like in a new place. And it's a really special week we have before we start school.
Yeah. Uh, Orientation week allows new boarders to get a taste of Singapore and lifestyle. And orientation week has many different activities, such as breaking the ice while new boarders getting to know each other and old boarders getting to know new boarders. They have this activity which I really liked, and then we all really enjoyed, was the amazing race. While when the old boarders bring new boarders around Singapore, get to know places, and they can work as a team to get to one place to another place by using public transportation. And orientation week also allows new boarders and old boarders getting used to the curriculum of the boarding house, such as curfews, tight curfews, and using reach for leave requests.
It just helps build community amongst every house, because we have 3 houses, so it's just a sense of belonging and community you feel when you come into that, and then the orientation week helps that a lot.
Yeah, just like we said, we have this motto: 3 houses, 1 community.
Yeah.
Well done, folks. I wondered when you were going to get that in. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Fidi. Thank you, Meng Hong.
Thank you.
I'll hand back to you, Marcel.
Thanks so much, Nick and Meng Hong and Vidi. We also have some boarders here from East Campus to also talk a little bit about their experience, and maybe focus a bit more on the routines and the kinds of activities we have in boarding. And then just after that, we'll hear from Nayeli and her house parent, Regina, who will share a bit about the house parent-student relationship and the other kinds of support that are available in the boarding house. So Forrest and Jamie, would you like to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about the daily routine for each of your grades?
Yep. Hello, everybody. My name is Forrest. I am currently a student in grade 9 doing the Uwcsea course. I joined last year, 2022, into grade 8 as a boarding student. I'm from China.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie. I'm from South Korea. I also joined in grade 8, and currently I'm in grade 12. So I joined in 2019, about 4 years ago. And yeah, I'm here with Forrest to talk a little bit about our schedule here in the boarding house. Perhaps you can start.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in East boarding, we have a rather different routine for different age groups. So you could say 8 to 9, we have they have the same routine. Grade 10 and 11s, no, grade 10s have the same routine, and then grade 11 and 12s have another rather different routine with us. So the higher the grade goes, you could say there's a bit more freedom. You're allowed to come back to the house a bit later, and there's less structured time for you. Whereas I lived in grade 8, and this is my second year in the grade 8 and 9 routine. It is a rather stricter and there's more structured time for you. Not saying that it's a bad thing, it's just a difference that there is.
Yeah. Maybe you can run through kind of a day.
So for us, weekdays we have obviously school. In the morning, we have morning wake ups. So the husband will come and wake you up very nicely. That's at 7 o'clock. You have to go to breakfast check-in. It is mandatory that you need to be there before 7:45, so you have time to eat your breakfast. You have school. You come back from 3, there's going to be afternoon snack, which is great. And then dinner check-in, that's from 6 to 6:45. You must go there. You can choose not to eat, but you must be present and then tell the house parents, hello, I'm alive, I'm well, no need to worry about. After dinner, you have study time from 7 to 8:30. Yeah, 7 to 8:30 for 1.5 hours. And then for grade 8 and 9s, we have our electronic curfew. We're going to give up all of your electronic devices for us every single day. And then on weekdays, it will be at 9 o'clock. So that means your study time finishes at 8:30. You have 30 minutes of free time, and then you have your curfew. And then after curfew, you have shutdown time, which means you have to be in your corridors. And then they'll basically force you to shower and brush your teeth, and they're supposed to sleep afterwards. So that would be a day for me, but say a day for Jamie would be slightly different.
Yeah, so I kind of experienced the full grade 8 to grade 12 transition, and Forrest really clearly explained the grade 8s and 9s routine. And for the older grades, so grade 11, grade 12, we have a little bit more freedom. So our morning looks quite similar. In the morning, they come wake us up. Grade 12, they usually don't wake us up. So I need to set 5 alarms to wake myself up or ask my kind corridor mates to come bang on the door so I can run to breakfast in the morning. And I get there, like Forrest, at 7:45, and school starts from 8 to 3 p.m. And often after school, we also get to do school activities. So sometimes I'd be involved in service. Forrest does swimming. So there are different activities you can join after school. So usually from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. for us, similarly, we either come back home to have the afternoon snack or go straight to service or activities until 6. And then same thing for grade 12s, we come in and have dinner at 6 to 7, and we also have study time. But often the younger grades, they have study time in common rooms. So within the boarding house building, we have multiple common rooms in different floors, and the grade 8, 9, and 10s, they usually study in those common rooms with a teacher or with an assistant house parent that's present. And I think one good thing about having a variety of assistant house parents who are teachers during the day at school is that you can ask subject related questions. So during study time, usually, especially in grade 8 to 10, I would go, for example, if there's a biology teacher or a math teacher that's an assistant house parent, then during study time, I would go up to them and ask for help as well. So that's study time for the younger grades. But for grade 11s, they go to the school library to study during the 7 to 8:30 period. And for grade 12s, we study in our own rooms. And sometimes it's flexible. So if you decide in the middle of grade 11, you might want to study in your rooms, you can talk to your house parents. There's a bit of flexibility there. And for grade 12s as well, usually during exam times, the schedule is a little different. So after the 7 to 8:30 p.m. study time, usually the grade 12, 11 and 12s curfew is later, so usually it's 10 p.m. And during the weekdays, we don't need to give up our electronics. So often kids would either finish study time and do a little more work if they have an exam or an assignment coming up, or we spend our times, in the common rooms. And Forrest will also know at 9 p.m. there's tea time, where one of our house parents, so Chris, on the 6th floor balcony, he prepares tea and snacks. So sometimes the younger grades, they would come drop by, but they have curfew. So most of the time, grade 10s, 11s, and 12s, they would hang out in the 6th floor balcony and have tea time and talk a little and chat together. Yeah.
And on weekends, it's slightly different. So on weekends, that would be Friday and Saturday. Sunday, we have normal times. On Friday and Saturday, we have no study time. The electronic curfew is later, quite different every day. They changed it a bit this year, made it extremely confusing. But basically on Friday, you have the latest curfew, so you're allowed out on Friday a lot later, so that'll be 10 for us and 11.
No, actually it's midnight for grade 12.
Oh yeah, even better, midnight for grade 12s on Fridays, and then Saturdays is slightly earlier.
Yeah. What do you usually do during the weekends? Is it more
weekends? It's pretty flexible. The house parents, you don't have any meal check-ins. There is 0 check-ins. You can do whatever you want. You could sign out every day, I guess, but usually people just sign out during the weekends. So submit your leave request. You can go pretty much anywhere. I don't think they will ever reject a leave request because of the location. You can go out with your friends or whatever, stay in the boarding house. Sometimes they also open facilities in the school. For example, the swimming pool, the gym, sports hall, whatever. You can go there if you want, or just relax in your room, do whatever you want. That's really pleasant.
Yeah. So overall, as a student that was here from grade 8 to grade 12, the transition was really smooth. And actually, sometimes I miss the kind of more structured days when there was structured study time with the students, but also I enjoy the freedom now in grade 12 where I can manage my own time. So there are different skills that you develop in your time here, I think, especially in the younger kind of age groups, you get to develop that maturity as well as that time management with the help of the house parents. And now as you get older, you can kind of become more independent, and I learned to use my own time and my space and resources effectively by myself. So I think the transition that this kind of structured system provides for the students is really helpful, and I've experienced that through my kind of 5-year transition here. Yeah.
Activity wise, there's a whole range of school activities, but there's also a lot of boarding house activities. So that would be anytime, actually. Sometimes it's in the weekdays, most of them in the weekends. there's some in-house or in-campus activities, like anything like just easy as sports hours open, or I think this week we have Regina is gonna take us to the high ropes if you sign up, or there's off-campus activities. So that is also a wide range. If you there's like hiking in Singapore, ice skating, go to Chinatown, all kinds of different things that the boarding house might organize for you. And that's, I think the great majority is optional, so you can sign up, choose or not to. And then school activities, that's another story, because that's just too much. That's all from different times, all kinds of different activities, sports, services, arts, anything you can imagine.
Marcel, is there anything else you might want us to mention?
No, it's really good to hear about kind of your journey over 5 years and the routines that are in place. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And next we're going to hear from Regina and Nayeli. So Regina is a house parent here at Uwcsea East, and Nayeli is one of the boarders in her house family. So Nayeli and Regina, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hello everyone. My name is Nayeli. I'm a high school student from Ecuador, and I joined UWC on 2022. And yeah, I'm in the Champaca family with Regina.
Yeah, I'm Regina. I'm one of the house parents here. I joined here actually at the same time as Nayeli, so at the start of last year, which was around August last year. So we've both been here for just 1 year. But before that, I was doing boarding house parenting in Sydney, Australia, and I was there for around 6 years. My background is in teaching as well. So, but yeah, here I am the Champaca family house parent. There are, as they went through, as Marcel has said before, we've got a few families. Can you remember what they are?
We have 4 different families. There is Champaca family, Kranji family, Tembusu, and Rambutan family. So we are divided is randomly. That's what they say. And then like we have our own BSC, that is the person who like is in charge of our flights and like managing our budget, and then our house parents, who are the ones who are like in charge of us during like our high school transition.
Yeah, so we really focus on the pastoral, and we're the link between your parents back home and your school teachers, and we are the ones that we talk with all of the other sort of resource and support connections within the school. So I connect a lot with the head of grade, I connect a lot with the mentors in school, but also in-house we've got some boarding counselors in the wellness team, and all the other house parents as well. So I think if we were going to look at support in boarding, I think that like we are the ones that kind of like are part of this like network or this web that kind of help lift you up and support you here. Yeah, I think for me, being a house parent here has been really, really cool, because I feel like the vibe here is a lot about teamwork. So I try really hard to make sure that, like, as a house parent, I'm here to support Nayeli in her transition, but I also want to work together with her, so that maybe we're working together against a problem, and maybe the problem is deadlines, or the problem is like
adaptation in like with different subjects. And
Yeah.
I remember that one time I was struggling with English, because like it's not my first language, and I felt really bad because like I felt I couldn't adapt well. But then I went to my house parent and ask her like, what can I do? How can I like be better and like try to improve along the way? And she was like, oh, Nayeli, maybe we can work together. I'm also an English teacher, and we can like work one-on-one and then see how it goes. And I was like really grateful, because I think that it's an opportunity that it's like inside your family and inside like the place you live, and makes it like more enjoyable, and like it's like a very huge opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, I remember you rang my doorbell, and there were a couple of times when it was a little bit sad or a rough day at school or something, and you've rung my doorbell just for a hug. And I think Yeah, that's nice. I like that. There are also, the other thing I really like about this place is that it really tries to foster personal connection. And so a lot of like the memories that I have with Nayeli that go across, that go over time, like over the past year, have been like little personal ones. For example, I remember visiting you in hospital last year, which was so dramatic and really sad. And I'm glad that you're better now. But yeah, that was a big time for you. And it meant that you missed UWC Day last year, but you were here this year and so happy in your national costume. That was cool.
Yeah. And like the good thing about the support in the house is like you can not only go to your house parent and like ask them how they can help you. You can go through like a lot of people who are like part of the community, part of the ecosystem of the boarding house. And then you can go to like different house parents, you can go to assistant house parents, people who can like might know your home language, and then like just go and tell them how you feel. It's not that you have just one person to go to, and like it's a whole community and a whole family. And that's the really nice thing about UWC is that you feel like you are like part of this family and you feel that you belong.
Yeah. Do you have anything, Marcel, for us to add? Anything we should talk about?
I'd forgotten that Nayeli was in hospital with appendicitis, if I recall. That
It
was
Yeah.
When I was sitting with you in the waiting room, and then we came to visit you every day, and you're better now. So
yeah. And also nice thing about like UWC and like this community, like this whole diverse communities, that you have like access to different people, and a lot of different people know you. And I remember that I received a lot of like letters from my body class that was like Nayeli, we're waiting for you, we hope you're doing well. And like they wrote a different kind of things, they like draw me, and that was a really nice thing, like to motivate me during my hospital days and like make myself happy.
yeah.
yes.
And then I think from memory, your reintegration back into school after being in hospital for a period, I think that was a bit of a challenge for you. But I think we really tried to put in like a really kind of big sort of support pyramid in place to like, we hooked you up with the boarding house counselor just to get some confidence back. And we also, yeah, as you said, like your mentor class, your buddy class. Yeah, do you remember what that was like?
Yeah, so I had a really hard time like reintegrating to like UWC after my surgery, and I felt like it was really difficult like to fit in after like all the group friends were like all set up. And then I remember that like our check-in meetings like every period was like really really helpful, because I got like someone to tell like how I felt, and you also were like keen to listen to me, and that really helped during my transition. And also I got to see a counselor, and like that, like Heidi helped me to like adapt, like adapt again, and that was like really really helpful.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Thank you both for sharing so candidly about your experience here, both being new as a house parent and a boarder. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Nick, over to you.
Thank you. We're really fortunate and appreciative of the fact that one of our parents from over here at Dover has been able to join us from Brunei. Give us a little more insight into what it's like to be a parent when your child is over here in the boarding community. Welcome, Eric. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. Hello.
Hi, Eric. We can hear
me
you fine.
okay? Yeah. So thanks for the chance to be on this panel, Nick. Yeah. So my name is Eric Chang. My family live in Brunei at the moment. We have one daughter in grade 12, Meredith Chang. She has been at UWC for 3 years. She joined as a boarder in the foundational IB program. So that was time flies. That was 3 years ago, and she really enjoy and thrive in her experience in UWC Dover so far.
Thank you. I've watched Meredith grow over this last this long period of time, which always goes very, very quickly here. And you see her sort of sporadically in holidays and things. Have you noticed change in Meredith over this period of time?
Yeah, so I think maybe from her compared to when she first started boarding, I think at this point we have seen her change in she's a much more independent young adult compared to a couple of years ago. She has learned to navigate her life in between academic studies, some social life, and just living independently with the support from the boarding community in Singapore over time. So I think she handles her study a lot more independently now. I think when she first started, there was all this tech curfew and pretty strict time imposed on her. So I think that was actually a good thing. So she learns to plan her day and then plan her work around different due dates. And now I think she has a bit more flexibility in how to manage her own time. But that kind of regimentation has helped her towards that goal. And now she's applying for university. She has done all her research with from the support from the Uwcsea, from the University Advising Center. And then she's making a lot of independent decision throughout her time in the boarding community. I think that goes from planning her study as well. When she first arrived, she felt she needed more help academically. So she started going to external tuition, but then she realized there's sufficient resources in the school to support her, that there's no need to do that. So after a while, she stopped going to the external kind of tuition enrichment. And with the support from the environment, the boarding, and the academic support, she did really well in her recent predictive grade. I think that's kind of the evolvement from being led to having an independent mindset of what is required, when do I need to seek help, where are the help available in the environment that she's in, being able to say that I need this kind of help, and where can I find? I think that's a growth that we saw in her in the last couple of years since she joined the boarding community.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. I know that Meredith is a very calm person, and what I've noticed is that she's really able to balance out working an awful lot as she does, but also maintain some really strong friendships and care for the other people around her, and other sort of activities and sports as well, which of course is what people are now looking for. It's the kind of rounded individuals rather than purely on that academic front. Is it something that you've noticed in terms of is she more critical of the world, more aware of the world around her?
Yes, indeed. I think from the outside looking in, she felt that she's more plugged in, or she's more accountable as a member of a larger community. I think that permeates both from in the boarding sense, but also in the UWC community sense. So there's activity that she enjoys because it helps her plug into the community, like she does the migrant workers community service work through UWCD. And then she also participates in the climbing team in the school. And also there's a lot of service project that UWC community has enabled Meredith to do. So I think that goes from the service week in Cambodia to the community service that they've done on weekends. So I think that all goes towards showing that she has a more better sense of appreciation of what is her role in her current phase of life, and what impact or what change that she can help advocate for, maybe in her current phase or maybe in future point in life. So I think the various opportunity that UWC has enabled Meredith to do that. And maybe in the sense of community as well, I think she's more appreciative of her relationship with others and also with family members as well, with the boarding experience. Yeah.
But we've been very lucky because your wife, Boon Heng, has been part of the Parent Association whenever she can get across or when she's visiting Singapore from Brunei. And that's, I think, enabled. It's always good to have parents who are able to visit and come in and see what's going on in action. Is there any other insight that you would share with prospective boarding parents?
Yeah, so I think that's a nice segue to that question. My wife, Boon Hong, she's been, we sent Meredith off during the tail end of the pandemic. So of course, as parents, we are very worried about not being able to see her. And indeed, the first semester was challenging because it was still under the limited circuit breaker. We have to apply for special permit to visit her. But maybe the insight I want to share with other parents are we're not losing our child, even though she has gone on to boarding. My wife has been able to, since the pandemic has ended, my wife has been able to visit almost once a month, maybe once or twice, maybe every 2 months. So as boarding parents, we can be as involved as we want to. So for example, for Boon Hong's case, she's been able to join several talks in UWC community. She has enjoyed the coffee morning, the morning walk with other parents. She's volunteered to be the parents, to be on the parents committee. And I think anytime that she's in Singapore, she'll try to join the UWC activity. I think UWC does a great job in plugging in the boarding parents as well. For example, I think there's an activity organized by Uwcsea that we cannot attend. It was a physical meeting, but this Friday they're doing an online version where boarding parents can join. So the key message is, as boarding parents, we can still be as plugged in as we want to be. Maybe the second part to that is just communication has been great. Meredith has been sick a few times. I think she's been quarantined in the clinic in the UWC. So been relying on the updates from the nurses to know that she's well and she's been cared for. So we appreciate that kind of very frequent communication, especially in times of needs.
It's brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Eric. And thanks for taking time out of your schedule for today to come and join us. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Over to you, Marcel. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Nick and Eric. And that's what you're signing up for here in boarding at UWC. Alongside the challenge of the 5 elements, a challenging and transformational residential life experience supported by a strong team of experienced adults and a caring peer community. This experience will not only change your child, but will change you as a family. Joining boarding at Uwcsea is a decision to be made by the whole family, buying into the mission, the community experience, and the fostering of values. I would like to thank all our staff, our parents, and our students who shared with us today. I hope you all learned a little more about our boarding community here at UWC. And that is the end of the presentation from the boarding team for this afternoon. And I'm going to hand back to Katie for a question and answer session.
Thank you very much, Marcel. So I couldn't get my video working there. Thank you very much, Marcel. That's wonderful to have heard all those voices today. So I would like to invite Marcel and Nick back onto screen so we can start some questions and answers that we have received from the parents. Parents, if you would like to send us some further questions, please use the questions and answers button at the bottom of your Zoom screen and pop your questions in there, and we'll hopefully get to most of the questions that you ask us. But Marcel, I'd like to kick off with you first. One question has come in from a parent wanting to know, how do they know if their child is a good fit for our boarding community?
Well, yes, that's a very personal question. And as I said before, I think it's a family decision. Families know their children best. They know whether they have the skills to learn to be independent. We don't expect students to arrive here fully independent and able to manage their whole lives. But we do expect students and families to arrive with an open mind, ready to accept the support that's on offer, and a willingness to work with the team to make sure that their child can thrive here. Resilience is often important. So understanding your child's ability to manage challenge and what kind of support they would need. And we take a diverse range of students. So we're not looking for a particular prototype of a student. We genuinely try and select students who are quite different from one another. So even if their resilience is not at the optimal level, but being able to understand that and articulate that and work with us for that support and developing that resilience, I think that would be super important too. What do you think, Nick?
It's very much a pull towards boarding rather than a push. So I think we've discovered this many times over the years, that when young people are interested in coming and sitting in a boarding environment and spending their time here, they will, it's very, very rare in my experience that they haven't really enjoyed. It always scares me when one of the kids say, yeah, it's like a never-ending get sleepover, because there are some elements of that, but there is also quite a lot of responsibilities that, and with that comes certain expectations and so on. But I think you know really through the interview process and through the admissions process that you're getting a good fit.
Thank you both very much. That's a perfect segue to introduce Caitlin onto our screen. Caitlin is our boarding admissions officer, and I have a perfect question for you, Caitlin. So a parent would like to know, what is the admissions process for a grade 11 student coming into boarding? I wonder whether you could just talk a little bit about the process that student will go through.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so for a student who is applying for grade 11 with boarding, first submit the application online. We will review look at the application. For grade 11, we will ask the applicants to already put in the subjects, fill in the subject option form, so we have an idea of what subjects they would like to do in the IB diploma course. And there are certain subjects where we may ask for like a portfolio, like a music portfolio or an art portfolio, or some language papers, so that we can better ascertain if the child is suitable for a higher level or a standard level. So after going through all that, we invite the student to attend what we call the virtual immersion program. So that is a very fun program where the students will have the applicant will have an opportunity to interact with other applicants. They interact with admissions team, with the boarding staff, and also with our own high school students. Yeah, so they will have a one-to-one boarding interview with a boarding house parent, and then they join a group session where we'll go through games and discussion and forum so that we can hear from them, hear their opinions and so forth. Yeah, and then after that, we'll do a final decision whether the child is has met the entrance criteria, and we'll let the parents know. And after that, the students who have met the entrance criteria will go into the pool to be considered for a place during our selection process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. And as part of that boarding interview, the applicant might be interviewed by Marcel, Nick, or one of our house parents, if I understand correctly. Just following on from that, Marcel, if we do take students into the boarding house, most of those students are on student passes. How do we assist those students in that process?
Yes, so pretty much all of our students are on student passes, maybe one or two aren't, perhaps on dependent passes. So the school has to register a student with the ICA, saying that we acknowledge they're a student and we will support their student pass. Once that happens, we will send the parents the documentation that comes with that, as well as the information on how to complete the student pass application online. We will then log on and double check that everything's been filled in correctly, and the parents will submit, depending on lots of different factors at the ICA at any given time. That could take 3 days or it could take 3 weeks. And the ICA will then issue a document that allows the student pass formalities to be completed. So when the student arrives in Singapore, we will assist with that as well, in terms of making an appointment, helping the students get to the place that they need to get to in order to complete their student pass formalities.
Great, thank you very much, Marcel. I'll start with you with this question, Nick, and then I'll pass it over to Marcel, because I know that the room configurations are slightly different at the campuses. But one, parents would like to know, particularly for the boys side of boarding, how many boys will there be in one room, and will toilets be attached to that room, or will they be separate? Oh, you're on mute, Nick.
I try and do that once every time we do this. In Dover, we have a very simple construction. So the 3 boarding houses are very similar in design, and all of the rooms are rooms of 4. Each room has an ensuite, and it normally has 2 showers and a toilet attached to it. So it's within the room, and it's just for the use of those 4 people. We have a negotiation, or a room contract, as we call it, at the beginning of each year, when the 4 people in that room decide how they want to use the room. So it's cubicled within the toilets, for example. Some people close off the whole bathroom, some people just use it by cubicle. It's lights on, lights off, what time, where they study, and so on and so forth. Quite a lot of things go into that. But that's very, very simple in Dover. Every room is for 4, and there are 8 rooms on a corridor, looked after by an auntie. So that's how we work over here.
Thank you, Nick. And how about East, Marcel?
So we're a slightly different configuration. So while Dover has 3 separate boarding houses, we have 1 building for all of our students. And that building, as you can imagine, is quite high. It's 14 floors, actually. And so each floor is dedicated to 1 or 2 grades. And on each floor, we have 2 corridors. And within a corridor is a group of 6 or 8 rooms, depending on the grade. Our grade 8 and 9 students are 4 students to a room. So there's 4 beds in that room available. Our grade 10 and 11 students, there are 2 students in a room. So they would share with 1 other person. And then our grade 12s will have a single room in a corridor of 8 when they get to grade 12. And all our students will share a bathroom amongst the corridor. So in grade 8 and 9, there could be 16 students sharing a communal bathroom, and inside that communal bathroom will be 5 showers and 5 toilet stalls.
Fantastic. Thank you both very much. Quite a few questions about food, a very important part of boarding. So the first question about food is, are there vegetarian options available at both sites for vegetarians?
Yes.
I'm assuming the question is yes.
We have many students who are vegetarian. It's a dietary preference we cater for at every meal. boarding food is never going to taste like your mother's home cooked food, but the students get quite a high quality of quite a wide variety of styles of food, whether it's vegetarian or not.
Fantastic. And that was going to be my next question, actually. One parent has asked, there seems to be lots of opportunities to have food. Will it become a little bit competitive? And how do we create that wide variety of food options for our students? Nick, I wonder whether you could just talk about your food experiences at Dover.
I was chuckling to myself when Meng Hong said that, they check whether you've eaten, every 2 days. Slightly more often than that, thank goodness. So there is sort of 5 options really. So there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the evening. There is snacks when you come home from school, and in the kitchens in the boarding houses there is selection of things like eggs, bread, flour, fruit, and a lot of staples for people to make their own. And then of course the ubiquitous noodles, which seem to come out from every corner of every place that seem to be around here at the moment. But breakfast is buffet style, and as is dinner. And lunch during the school week there are 4 or 5 different stations around the school site. And that allows you to go and choose from the salad bar, from the Western food, from the Asian food, from the various different stalls that there are. And I think lunch is very popular. I think when you have 50 plus nationalities in a boarding house, it's always going to be a challenge to meet all those expectations. But I think Sodexo, which is the company that supports us, it's our partner company, is very, very good, is very adaptive, and there's a never-ending evolution of menus and so on, which is our constant kind of, I think I have more meetings with Sodexo than many other departments of trying to keep the interest up and so on. But we also add to that with special dinners. There's usually 1 or 2 of those each month because it's a particular national day, or it's UWC day, or it's some other major event. And live stations which pop up. So it might be, a cook as you wait, Indian or Korean or Japanese or something like that also comes well. So there is great variety. And I think the food, certainly from my experience of school food, is extraordinarily good. But we always have our challenges meeting every kind of nationality and their expectations, and particularly, as Marcel says, home cooked food is difficult to beat in most cases.
Thank you very much, Nick. Marcel, I'd like to just bring up something that Jamie mentioned, actually, and one of our parents has mentioned here, that if students do need help with their homework during their study time, how do they get assistance when they are doing their study time at the boarding house?
So we always have a team of staff on duty every evening. So, for example, we would have 6 different staff who'd be working with students across an evening. Many of those staff are subject teachers at school, so students can access them. They all know when Andy, the science teacher, is on duty, or the maths teacher's on, so they can access help then. We also have quite a strong network of peer supporters. So I think one of the benefits of living with 155 other people who are all in classes with you is that you will have students who can also help you. So there is also a formal and informal network of peer support for academics. And alongside that, our staff during the school day, they have lunchtime help sessions. So there's lots of different kinds of help, not always in the evening, but also during the school day that students can access quite easily.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Marcel. Caitlin, we have a query from a family. It looks as though they are going to want to start at Uwcsea as a day student, but potentially look at boarding at a later date. I wonder whether you can just give this family a little bit of an understanding whether that is even possible.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, a day student can request for a transfer into boarding after attending the college for a minimum of 1 school year. Yeah, but just want to highlight that a transfer into boarding is not an automatic or guaranteed process for a current student. So first and foremost, we need to have a bed space available. But entry into boarding is also selective. It's subject to the suitability of the student to join the boarding. So that is determined through a boarding interview with the Director of Residential Life, so with Marcel or with Nick. And also we look at also other selection criteria when we look at when we do the selection. So in the event that we are unable to offer your child a place in boarding and you are unable to continue your stay in Singapore, then I'm afraid, unfortunately, the child will need to withdraw from the college and move out of the country with the parent. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Caitlin. Nick, back to you. So we talked a little bit about how we communicate with the parents, and Eric was highlighted that really nicely with regards to some illness that Meredith had, and he was hearing regularly from the nurse. But how do parents connect with the boarding house? And are they able to connect with somebody in the boarding house if there is an emergency, for example, in their home?
Yes, we have a system. Well, there are several ways in which you can get through, but each boarding house has two phones which are sort of peripatetic. So during the day teams, or BSEs as they're called over in East, have one set of phones, and they're handed over to the assistant house parents in the evening, and the house parents carry a phone in the evenings at weekends, and they also take them to overnight when they have closed down the boarding house in the evening. So essentially, the phones are held 24/7 while the college is open. In addition to that, there is on the website, there is all the contact numbers, which includes not just only boarding house individuals, but also the nurses and so on. And there's also the opportunity to contact through the high school and vice versa, through us and back to the high school if necessary. So it's pretty much 24/7. You should be able to, can't guarantee you'll get back immediately every time, particularly in the evenings during the weekdays when it's extremely busy, but we do try to turn around those phone calls as quickly as possible or answer them on the day. And we try to keep our emails moving over very, very quickly as well, so that people get a quick response.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nick. And to you, Marcel, it looks like we have a student that has joined us today and has asked if this student's parents come to Singapore while they are boarding, are they able to leave boarding and go and stay with him in a hotel, for example, over the weekend if their parents are visiting? Is that allowed?
Yes, it's really good to stay with your parents and stay in touch with them. Parents do often visit Singapore and students do stay out. There will be some dates across a year where we might say, well, and we publish these in advance so families can plan, but we might say, well, actually we have a boarding house activity on, or there's a different activity on campus and we need all our students to be in-house for that. But if there is no compulsory activity on, families are very welcome to visit Singapore and have their child stay with them. What we would point out, though, is that probably doing that every weekend in the first term is really not going to help students integrate well. So we always suggest to parents for the first half term, try not to visit too regularly. And that really will facilitate their child integrating into the boarding community better. Similarly, if a parent is coming to Singapore for 2 or 3 months, we probably wouldn't allow the child to stay out with that parent for the full 2 or 3 months, unless there was a very special set of circumstances, just because as a boarding student, they have expectations around participation and engagement with the boarding community and our boarding program.
Fantastic, thank you. And to stay with you, Marcel, talking about integration and how students start to build that social network, the activities that the students will do while they're in the boarding house, how much of that is supervised and unsupervised?
Good question. So some activities are student initiated, and often those will be students arranging to do their own cooking session together, for example, or go on a trip together. So we might not have a staff member at every single one of those, but if it's a boarding house initiated activity, so for example, if we take them to a trip to Chinatown or we go hiking in McRitchie, this weekend we've got some climbing wall activities going on. All of those will have a staff member present. And obviously any activity, whether it's student-led or staff-led, if it's on site, our staff are here on site in the building checking that things are not going wrong. So the majority would have a staff member present unless it's a student-initiated activity.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Marcel. And Nick, I can't work out whether this is a parent or a student asking this question, but do students do their own laundry? Do they tidy their own room? Do they clean their own room and the toilets?
Sadly not, no. With the size of our operation, we do need to have the backup of these services. So we have moved towards, as far as the laundry is concerned, a rather good system, which is mirroring what East has had for a couple of years, which is an electronic tag system, which allows us to read what has been sent to the laundry and returned. So that works quite well. It hands out on the Tuesday for Friday and Friday for Tuesday. So there are 2 cycles each week. It's new this year for us, and with a few teething problems, which we're just beginning to sort of sort out now, but it's worked very, very well at East. And we're just, it's more our mistakes than the laundry's mistakes in terms of organisational skills with that one. So that's that. Sorry, I forgot the second half of your question.
It was cleaning the bedrooms, cleaning their own rooms as well as the bathrooms.
Yes. No, and that's really, there is an expectation, as there would be with your own child, really, to keep your room in a reasonable state. But also, because of the laws around chemical use and so on and so forth, we can't really let everybody loose with all of those. So there is a wonderful person on each corridor here at Dover called an auntie, and the aunties are generally there for cleaning, support, tidying bedrooms and doing bathrooms and so on and so forth. There is more ways in which people contribute. So, for example, each room on rotation looks after the main shared kitchen and cleans that each evening for a week and makes sure that's usable by everybody. And then the auntie goes in and does a once over in the morning. You thought I was going to say a proper job then. No, the kids are amazingly good at doing it. They empty the bins, they tidy up and make sure everything's ready for the following day. So
Fantastic.
That's really how it works.
Great. Any different at all for you at East, Marcel?
Very similar. I think it's good for prospective families and students to know we have house chores, like Nick mentioned. So everyone is responsible for keeping the common areas clean. So we have a group of about 6 to 8 students each night on a roster who will go around the boarding house, tidying up, cleaning things. And as Nick said, they're expected to keep their own rooms neat and tidy. But we do have support from our housekeeping team when it comes to cleaning the bathrooms and using significant chemicals to keep things clean.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marcel. And just time for one last question. Marcel, I'll throw this one to you. Are there any overnight excursions for the boarding community? I know that you have done joint boarding holidays before, but I wonder if you can talk a little bit more about that and if there's any overnight excursions for our boarders.
Overnight excursion can mean lots of things. So we do have an overnight trip that both Dover and East run each year, actually quite recently in the last couple of weeks as part of our transition term where students are new to the college and the community is still building its connections. We actually take our students over the border to Bintan and in previous years to Malaysia as well. And that's a 2-night excursion together as an entire boarding community. So 150 odd, 80 odd, depending on your campus, group of teenagers and staff. And we have an amazing time together building connections. There are also opportunities for our boarding students to stay over at family houses or day student houses, friends in Singapore's houses on weekends. So they can spend overnights elsewhere. And similarly, they can also invite their day student friends to stay over in the boarding house as well. We had one actually just last weekend where one of the students invited their friend from school to sleep overnight in the boarding house. So there's lots of different ways of doing overnight experiences in boarding.
Wonderful. Thank you all very much for some fantastic questions. I would just now like to take us back to our presentation because we would love to hear your feedback about today's experience. And while you're doing that and clicking onto that QR code, I'd really like to thank our Directors of Residential Life, Marcel and Nick, and also our house parent, Regina, our students, Nayeli, Menhung, Vidi, Forrest, and Jamie, and of course, Eric, our parent, and of course, Caitlin from our admissions department, who were helping us today for our boarding webinar. So if you are able to give us a little bit of quick feedback, it's a very quick survey, we'll be very grateful for that. And for those of you who have booked to come on campus to see us at Dover on Friday and East on Thursday for the high school in-person events, we're very much looking forward to welcoming you this week. But thank you very much for joining us today. We've really appreciated your time and thank you for giving us feedback. Thank you.